The first rule everyone learned was simple. Don't get attached to people with short timers. In the beginning, it was an unspoken rule, just an instinct. You'd see the numbers on someone's wrist glowing red instead of white, and you'd take a quiet step back. You'd force a smile, make an excuse to leave the party early. But then, that quiet avoidance became official policy. Hospitals started refusing to treat patients with less than 24 hours left on their clocks. Insurance companies would void your coverage the moment your timer dipped below a week. Employers began terminating contracts, citing imminent expirations. Suddenly, death wasn't a tragedy anymore. It was just an inconvenience on a schedule. I first really saw the coldness of it all with my neighbor, Mr. Henderson. His timer dipped under an hour. It was like a force field went up around his apartment door. The food delivery services stopped coming. His own family, his son and daughter, just stood across the street, watching the seconds drain away like they were spectators at a public execution. But I knocked on his door anyway. The look on his face when he saw me was one of pure shock. He managed a weak smile and said, "You don't care about the numbers, do you?" I shook my head. "No," I told him. "I don't have any." And that's when he started to cry. He wasn't crying because he was about to die. He was crying because, in his final moments, someone had bothered to stay. When his timer finally hit 0, the light just blinked out. His body followed a few seconds later, collapsing like a computer shutting down. I was the only one there to witness it. By the end of that week, people had started to notice me. And I mean, really notice me. A video of me just standing next to a dying stranger on a park bench went viral. Then another one, of me holding a woman's hand as her timer faded in a crowded subway station. The comment sections exploded with theories. He's immune. He's already dead. He's the reason the timers even exist. It was chaos. Scientists wanted my blood, desperate to find the secret to my lack of a clock. Governments wanted my silence, afraid of the hope and panic I represented. Religious groups wanted my obedience, claiming I was some kind of divine messenger. And then the cult appeared. They called themselves the Timeless. They saw me as living proof that death could be escaped, that the tyranny of the timers could be overthrown. They believed that, if they just followed me, if they clung to my presence, they too would be spared. I never asked to be their leader. I never agreed to any of it. But that didn't stop them from following me everywhere I went. They shaved their heads and covered their timers with strips of black cloth. They refused to acknowledge death at all, speaking as if it were a myth. It was a strange, desperate kind of faith. But it didn't save them. Timers don't care what you believe. I watched them fall, one by one, their covered wrists no protection against the inevitable. The worst moment, the one that truly broke me, came when my sister found me. We hadn't spoken in years. Life just gets in the way, you know. You drift apart. But she tracked me down in the middle of all the chaos. She found me hiding out in an old warehouse the Timeless had claimed as their sanctuary. And on her wrist, her timer read 00 hours, 12 minutes, and 41 seconds. She just smiled, as if she hadn't even noticed the glaring red numbers. "I'm not scared," she said, her voice steady, but I was terrified. For the next few minutes, I became a madman. I begged doctors. I offered every cent I didn't have. I threatened government officials with the public outcry that would follow. None of it mattered. You can't argue with a clock. We ended up on the roof of the hospital, the same one that had refused to admit her. We sat together, watching the city lights flicker below us. Thousands upon thousands of tiny timers, a sea of glowing countdowns, each one marching toward its own inevitable end. "Why don't you have one?" she asked softly, her head resting on my shoulder. "I don't know," I whispered back. It was the honest truth. She nodded, accepting it. "Then promise me something," she said, her voice getting weaker. "When you figure out what you are, don't let them turn you into a god." She was holding my hand when her timer hit 0. The light went out, and she was gone. And just like all the other times, nothing happened to me. I just sat there, holding a hand that was suddenly cold, and that's when I finally understood. The timers weren't really about death, they were about certainty. They gave everyone a definite, unavoidable, and absolute answer to the one question that had haunted humanity forever. When, in a world of complete certainty, I was the only variable left, the only unknown. That night, as I walked away from the hospital, I felt a strange sensation, a faint tingling on the skin just above my forehead. I stumbled into a convenience store and looked at my reflection in the polished glass of the drink cooler, and for the first time since the numbers appeared on everyone else, I saw something above my own head. It wasn't a countdown. It wasn't a series of numbers. It was just a single word, glowing in a soft, ethereal white light, pending.